What's up, guys? BioPrepV here, and today we're going to be wiring up the Joshua Bardwell F7 flight controller. We're going to be wiring everything up. We're going to be wiring a crossfire receiver, a TBS Unify Evo, and then also just a regular analog camera. I'm going to show you real briefly just how to set up DJI. It's really honestly plug and play, so it literally takes 2 seconds. So I'll show you that over the bench as well. But if you found this video helpful, go ahead and give it a like. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do tons of tutorials regarding Betaflight, everything you can think of, setting up your first quad to advanced features like GPS and GPS rescue. So let's go ahead and get over to the bench, and we'll go ahead and set up this flight controller. Alright, so let's show you what you get in the package of the Joshua Bardwell F7 flight controller. You get the flight controller itself, of course. You do get some extra 401 harnesses, and you do get some gummies as well that it comes in the package that you'll need to install yourself. So yeah, I already actually used the one of the 401 headers that it came with. I had to make my own to fit this type of ESC. This is a T-Motor 50 amp 6S ESC that came, I think, in one of the past quad boxes. So that's what I'm using here. So any real 401 ESC will work just fine with this flight controller. You can also use individual ESCs if you like, but you will need pretty much a power distribution board if you are going to use separate ESCs. Alright, so this port right here, this R1 ground, this is actually your DJI port, and this is the 401 header port. In order to hook up your DJI Air Unit or Vista system, you'll pretty much just take the included plug and literally plug it into this and then plug the other end into your DJI Air Unit, and you're pretty much good to go. And this is assuming that you're going to be using the DJI radio. If you're going to be using the like a crossfire receiver, coming up I'll show you guys the wiring of setting up that separately. But yeah, we do have black box on this flight controller. It does have tons of UARTs everywhere. 9-volt regulator, 5-volt regulator, buzzer, LEDs, you name it, this thing can do it. So this is actually a really impressive flight controller for a lot of people's needs. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start wiring up this flight controller. Alright, so I already pre-tinned everything we're going to be soldering to. I am going to go over, if you're not using a crossfire receiver, using like maybe a FreeSky, like RXSR or something like that, I'll show you how to wire that as well. So first things first, like I said, we're going to be wiring it to this crossfire receiver to this receive 5-volt ground, R1, T1, and then we're going to be using these two for camera control to see if it works on this camera. You can control it by TX and RX, so we'll wire that up too as well. If you just have one wire coming out of your OSD, you would actually wire that up to the camera control right here, which I'm not going to be using since I'm going to be using the UART control of it. And then you do have your 9 volts and your 5 volts. We're going to be wiring our camera up to the 5 volts and then also the ground, and then just using also this video in. This is the video out right down here we're going to be soldering to. And then right here, this is where the smart audio UART we're going to use as well to control the Evo. If you've noticed, there's a lot more you can do with Evo. I'm just doing it basically. So I'm just trying to use it mostly. Everyone's going to use a smart audio with video, ground, and 5 volt, or maybe a battery voltage type of source. So I'm just going to show you guys that portion of it. Not going to go too complicated. So first things first, if you're going to go ahead and use if you have like an S-Bus receiver like FreeSky, you will be using this 5 volt, this ground, and then your the R1, which it's really hard for me to see it. So it's the R1, which is down here. That's the ones that you would use for your S-Bus pad, the receive. But everything else should be exactly the same. But your receiver should be able to set up. And if you do have smart port telemetry that you want to hook up to, you can also hook that up to a available TX pad. So if you wanted to use a T4 or T5, you're more than welcome to do it on one of those pads. But since I'm using Crossfire, I'm just going to be using these 4 pads here for it. So let's go ahead and solder that up. I'm in my 5 volt wire to my Crossfire, so I'm going to solder that up real quick. And then we have the ground right here, which is the black wire. Yellow wire, which is our TX pad, which is going to go to our RX on our T1, on our receiver. So we're going to hook this one up to R1. T1 pad. Okay, so the receiver's all wired up. Now, if you aren't using a 401 ESC, there is available motor pads on this flight controller. They're underneath 1 through 4, and then we have 5, 6, 7, 8 labeled over here. I'm not going to be wiring a buzzer since I'm going to be using it, but if you are using a buzzer, your buzzer pads is right here in the corner. And if you're using GPS, that will be available right here. SDA and SCL pins for that. So it has pretty much just this flight controller is actually really, really nice. And Joshua Bardwell did a really good job on the configuration and giving us a lot of options to wire a lot of things up. So it's much appreciated. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to solder up my camera. So we're going to do that right here on top. So I'm going to be using the 5-volt regulator. And we had ground too as well. Okay. So here's my cables. Here's my camera. We're going to go ahead and move that out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and wire these up first. These camera control wires, since I'm the closest to. So my camera control TX needs to go to an RX pad. Alright, so we're going to wire that up here. This is going to go to R2. And then we'll go to okay. And then we have ground power, all that stuff here. All right, and then we have ground. And then we have our video. So now we're going to go ahead and wire up our VTX. VTX is already powered through the ESC, so I'm not going to be hooking up the power wires, but I like to get my Unify's direct battery voltage, so it's actually just right on the battery leads. We're literally right there. So then we're going to wire up the video and then the smart audio. There we go. And then we're going to solder on the video. All right, so that does it for all the wiring pretty much of everything. Like I said, I'm not wiring everything, like tons of stuff on here. If you want to do GPS, you do that down here. And if you wanted more than one motor, like I said, there's motor outputs here. There's also a 9-volt and a 5-volt rail here. And then we also have our boot button and everything. So we're going to go jump on the computer, configure this. All right, so we're in Betaflight. Right top here, we can tell with, this is already flashed with Betaflight 4.2.0. So that's all good. So we're going to go ahead and go over the ports tab. We have our UART1 on receive, which is correct, even for how I wired it up. UART2, I went ahead and I used, what did I use? One. Okay. And that was a camera control I put on UART2. So peripherals, UART2. Run cam, camera control. That would be that. Okay. UART4 is ESC, which is actually I already connected that to my ESC. And then we have our T3 for smart audio. So I'm going to remove UART5, disable that. And we'll go right over here to smart audio for UART3. Yep, so that looks all correct. So we're going to go ahead and click on save and reboot. All right, so we're going to go over to the configuration page. I'm going to go ahead and enable everything awesome. So I'm going to disable the accelerometer because I'm not going to use it. We're going to do D-Shot 600. We're going to use bi-directional D-Shot. That'll be all fine. We're going to name this Stark because this is going to be a Stark frame. Put this on crossfire. And if you're going to be using it on FreeSky, like S-Bus, you want to change this to S-Bus. Okay, so air mode, want to enable that. Telemetry, enable that. All that other stuff can be off. Everything else is good. Go over to our receiver, not a receiver tab. Well, I guess I should go to receiver tab and put in my aux channel. Yeah, aux 8. And change this over to that. And then we're going to change my rate profile. We're not going to change any of the PIDs because that's no point. I guess these are his rates, huh? 1.27. Not too far off of mine. Mine's a little more twitchy. But I like it on all my axes. I don't like it different. So we got this, 7.9. And that's that. So everything else set up. Let me put my radio on, make sure we got everything connected. And then that's how to set my modes up too. Engine off. Alright, so let's go to our modes tab. Alright, that is working. Good. So we're going to move that over to make our switches work. So we have that. We have beeper and range. Aux 2. And then we're going to add, let's see here, flip perfect crash. There we go. Not add link. Want to add aux 3 and then boom. So yeah, that was pretty much it to set up the Joshua Bardwell F7 flight controller. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope it helped some of you guys out. So if it did, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check out my links down below if you're interested in picking up a Joshua Bardwell F7. But this is Viper FPV, and I'll see you guys in a future video. Peace.